5SC repeater, PL110.9.
And 5HYP test.
I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is KFI-PDS. My name is Billy, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DRC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.880 MHz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, what can you see in the sky tonight, a featured constellation or object or topic, recent astronomical discoveries, space exploration and space history, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and our 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to my alternate net control, KE5ICX. Tom, if you'll do the check-in honors, please.
Ms. Billy, this is KE5ICX. I am Tom, and I'll be alternate net control for tonight's Skynet. I'll go ahead and take low power short time check-ins first. Please come with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from. Let me know if you're low power short time. Please come now.
Bravo Kilo X-Ray, Gentry, Mobile, and Louisville, and will be a short timer tonight. KI5BKX.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, India Victor Juliet, Justin, Red Oak, short time. Guys, I'm going to stop there. I think there were 3 potential check-ins. I've got 2, so I'll put those in first. KI5BKX, Jeffrey in Louisville, he's short time. KF5IVJ, Justin in Red Oak, he's short time. There was another station, if you didn't hear your call sign, you tried to get in. Try and increase power for me if you would, and we'll see if we can pick you up on this round. Low power short time, please come in. Right, I don't hear any, but we'll take additional check-ins now. We'll take general check-ins. Please come down with your call sign, phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Echo 5, this is Bill, transmitting from a mobile just south of Wilmer Hutchins. We'll be on short time.
We got Kilo Echo 5, I got Bill in Wilmer. Bill, you want to try one more time? Give me your call sign twice. I think repeater may have cut you off.
Kilo Echo 5, Whiskey Delta Mike, this is Bill. Kilo Echo 5, Whiskey Delta Mike, over.
Okay, Bill, I got you that time. Kilo Echo 5, Whiskey Delta Mike. Bill, thank you for checking in. I'll pause now and ask anybody low power short time, do you have anything for the net before you disappear, since several of you are short time? If you're none, we'll go to general check-ins. General check-ins, please come with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Your QTH, please.
Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
This one's a new one on me. Very few check-ins. Come on, folks. I got NT5TM, Tony in Dallas. If you're out there, you can check in. There's no test tonight. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is WB5OZL, Brenda in DeSoto.
Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson.
Charlie 5, Oscar Zulu Tango, Carolyn in Louisville.
Oh, Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch. This is Kilo Golf 5, Echo India Uniform, David, St. Paul, Texas. Papa, Mike in Richardson.
Slow check-ins tonight. I got WB5OZL, Brenda in DeSoto. A5H, Robert in Richardson, welcome. KC5OZT, Miss Carolyn in Louisville, just up the street from me. KF5ZBL, Mr. Bill in Farmers Branch. KG5EIU, David in St. Paul. KG5P, Mike in Richardson. Additional check-ins before I go to Echolink. And, you know, they're the cool kids. So if you want to be cool, you got to check in now. hearing none, I'm going to go to Echolink. Here come the cool kids. I'll take check-ins over Echolink. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign name, where you're transmitting from. If you have no audio, just type in the chat window that you're here and where here is. Echolink only. Please come now.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Zulu Charlie Tango, David, and Frisco.
This is November 5, Yankee Echo Oscar. November 5, Yankee Echo Oscar. Stephen, San Antonio.
Alrighty, let's see here. I've got the folks either through chat or voice. KG5Z Charlie Tango, David in Frisco, K5JHA Chaz. He says he's from planet Earth. I seriously doubt that. N5YEO, Stephen in San Antonio. He's back. KB5RHE, Brian in Fort Worth. He's back. Let's see. I think not everybody else. Well, there's a couple other people on Echolink. Anybody else on Echolink? I'll take your check-ins now.
This is KE5WBZ, Denton, Texas.
Zulu, Mick, over in Denton on Echolink. Welcome, Mick. All right, I'll take any check-ins, any mode. Please come now with your call sign name where you're transmitting from.
Alpha Bravo Alpha, Andre in Dallas.
Kilo Foxtrot 5 Tango Hotel Bravo, Brent in Henrietta via Echolink.
I have N5ABA, Andre in Dallas, and KF5THB, Brent in Henrietta. I think all the regulars have pretty much checked in. Let's see here now. I guess that's our round of check-ins. So let me send this back to our net control. Billy, KF5PDS, this is Tom, KE5I6. 19 so far. Net is yours.
Great, thank you, Tom, and welcome to everyone who's checked in on Skynet. All right, let's go ahead and get started with general announcements. So do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. If you have an announcement, please come now with your call sign.
Tango 5, Tango Mike.
NT5TM, good evening, Tony. It was good seeing you at Turkey Trot. Announcements do you have for us this evening?
Well, yes, very good to see you, and it was a fun event. We just have a few things left for the DARC this year. We have the next meeting, the December Pizza Party, coming up on Tuesday, December 4th, and the Winter Dinner coming up on Tuesday, December 11th. Details about both of those events at w5fc.org. I'd like to urge everyone who enjoys public service events to have a look at the TechNet News Post. The Dallas Marathon is still in need of numerous ham operators, and they would really love your support. This was the first public service event I ever did. A little bit of baptism by fire, but all in a good cause, and it was a lot of fun. So there is a link to the new online sign-up form in the TechNet News Post at w5fc.org. This is the Dallas Marathon. Finally, I will mention, I know Tom always talks more about this and with much more excitement than I can bring, this is not our last net of the evening. This is not the last net. We do have the Afterglow movie discussion net coming up tonight at 10:30. We have another television episode tonight. We're talking about the show UFO, or as they said it on the show, UFO. Season 1, Episode 1. Tonight at 10:30 will be our topic of discussion. I hope to hear you there, and thank you very much, Billy, NT5TM.
Great. Thank you, Tony. And yes, we will hear more details on that net here in just a few moments. Does anybody else have any announcements for this evening's net? So please come now with your call sign. I'm not hearing any, so I'll go ahead with some standard announcements. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time. You'll need Echolink installed and be registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. The Dallas AMSAT net, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas net is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington computer, 147.140 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. The DARC has several nets on Monday nights. The first Monday of the month is Ham Fixin's net. If you have a recipe to share, anecdote, question about food, any topic, food related, or you just want to come and gather some great recipes, come join us for Ham Fixin's Net. The second Monday of the month is MCOM 101 Emergency Communications Net. The third Monday is the second helping of Ham Fixin's Net. And the fourth Monday is GeekNet. Usually what's shared on GeekNet, if it's geeky, we'll share it. It could be news of the weird, books, anything geeky, brain teaser, you name it. If it's geeky, we'll talk about it on GeekNet. Also, if there's a fifth Monday, some months have a fifth Monday. The fifth Monday surprise net, we've done everything from Christmas Thunderdome, discussing best and worst Christmas presents of the year, to April Fool's, Truth or Lies. I think they did a build-your-own short story one night. And several rounds of Jeopardy have taken place on the Fifth Monday Surprise Net. So join us. It's always a pleasant surprise on the Fifth Monday Surprise Net. On Wednesdays, we have Veterans Net on the first and third week from 7 to 8 p.m. And Saturdays is the Night of Nets with TechNet from 7 to 8 p.m. And, of course, at 9 p.m., Skynet. And 10:30, we have the Afterglow Movie Net. The ARRLNet National Traffic System Training Net is every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, and all are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. And being that Christmas is coming up, I do have an additional announcement of my own. Wanted to announce that starting November 23rd, SantaNet kicks off on 3.916 megahertz. So this information comes to us from forums.qrz.com. For the 13th consecutive year, the 3916 nets will be presenting the SantaNet on 3.916 megahertz. Good girls and boys can talk to Santa Claus via amateur radio nightly at 7:30 p.m. Central Time, starting Friday, November 23rd, 2018. The SantaNet will run nightly at 7:30 p.m. Central through Christmas Eve, December 24th, 2018. Pete Thompson, also known as KE5GGY, of the 3916 nets, presented on the SantaNet. He said, Christmas time is our favorite time of the year on 3.916 megahertz. Our group thoroughly enjoys helping young people and their families have a shared Christmas experience that they'll always remember. In addition, SantaNet has introduced a lot of young people to the magic of amateur radio. Youngsters can talk to Santa at the North Pole via strategically placed operators who relay the voice of Santa. Thompson said the SantaNet is a team effort that involves the efforts of a number of 3916 net members. He said, in our first year, we connected 10 kids to Santa on ham radio, and it's grown steadily since. For 2018, we're expecting between 600 and 700 children to participate. Pre-net check-ins are welcome each night starting at 7:15 p.m. Central or on Facebook at www.facebook.com/3916 SantaNet. Third-party rules and regulations apply. The SantaNets are presented annually by the 3916 nets. The Rag Chew crew, the Tailgaters, and the Freewheelers are all amateur radio nets that meet on 3.916 megahertz nightly. For more information on the 3916 nets, go to www.3916nets.com. And for more information on the SantaNet, you can email Mr. Thompson, ke5ggy@gmail.com. I also found another announcement. Now, this one was 3 years old. I have not seen an update, but there is also SantaNet advertised on December 23rd and 24th. This was dated 2015, where they were running a SantaNet on 20 meters on frequency 14.305 to 14.325 megahertz. They start out on 14.300 and then direct people to a clear frequency. Again, this information on 14300.net is 3 years old, so I'm not sure if they're going to do a net this year, but you could try it, get on the 20-meter frequency and see, but that's usually just a couple of days leading up to Christmas. But the 3.916 net has begun and is every night, 7:30 p.m. Central on 3.916 megahertz. So does anybody need any fills on that information? I'd be glad to if you need it. Just let me know. Please come now with your call sign if you need a fill. Okay, not hearing any. This is KF5PDS, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up, I'll turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, if you will give us more detailed information on tonight's Afterglow movie net.
Keely, this is KE5ICX. It is the distant future, 1980. Commander Edward Stryker moved papers around on his desk. Running a famous movie studio was hard work, dealing with egocentric actors, grumpy technicians, traveling to far-flung shooting locations, weather delays, and pushy movie executives had him down. But that wasn't Stryker's only job. He was also in charge of Shadow, the supreme headquarters, the Alien Defense Organization, where he was dealing with egocentric aliens, grumpy submarine commanders, traveling to far-flung space locations, interplanetary orbital delays, and pushy civil defense responders. Join us for the most spandex-equipped series in the history of television, UFO Identified, the premiere episode from 1970, tonight at 10:30 p.m. Back to you.
Great, thank you, Tom. Yes, you do not want to miss discussion on this fine TV series. All right, so next up is Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. If there's someone on frequency that would like to give information about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, please come now with your call sign. Okay, not hearing any, so I'll come forward with some information. The Texas Astronomical Society has monthly meetings that are held on the fourth Friday of every month, except November, when they're moved to the third Friday, and there's usually not a meeting in December. The meetings are held at the University of Texas at Dallas campus in Richardson. The meetings begin at 7:30 p.m. in the Science Learning Center building, SLC on the campus map, and it's important that you park in only lots H, I, or J, as parking anywhere else on campus could result in a ticket. You can go to www.utdallas.edu for a campus map. The meetings include programs presented by members or guest speakers and a slideshow of the constellation of the month. They've also been alternating at the beginning from 7 to 7:30. They've been alternating new member orientation with beginning astronomy class. So you can go to the website to find out more information about that. But they alternate. 1 month they'll do a new member orientation. The next month they'll do kind of a beginner, just a 30-minute little astronomy class over a topic, and they'll alternate topics. So again, go to www.texasastro.org for more information about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. The Texas Astronomical Society also hosts observing parties every Saturday night beginning at sunset and concluding around 10 p.m. Central Time. Each week is a different location for observing, so make sure you get complete details for the Saturday night you wish to attend. Again, go to www.texasastro.org, select the calendar, and the pull-down for complete details on the event that you wish to attend. Tonight, the Texas Astronomical Society Star Party is normally held at the Shores Park in Rockwall, but I saw a Facebook post earlier that the event tonight was canceled due to cloudy weather. Other parties, the first Saturday of the month is Spring Park in Garland. Second Saturday is Frisco Commons Park in Frisco. Third Saturday is in Cedar Hill at J.W. Williams Park. And again, fourth Saturday of the month is Stars on the Rock at the Shores Park in Rockwall, Texas. Again, you can go to www.texasastro.org, select the calendar, and click on the event for the details of the event you wish to attend. All right, normally next up we would have National Space Society events and activities, but I understand that Bill N5BB is out on assignment, so we'll skip over to discussion topic of the evening. So I've been covering for several months now, just as a multi-part talk on NASA analog missions. So first off, what are analog missions? Well, an analog is a station on Earth that produces effects on the body similar to those experienced in space, both physical and mental emotional. These studies help prepare us for long-duration missions. NASA is associated with at least 15 analog missions throughout the world. So each month I've been presenting a different analog mission. Tonight I'm going to present on the Antarctic stations. So mission overview, the location, Antarctica. Environment, hostile environment, isolation are the hazards that are tested. NASA scientists have determined that Antarctica's environment and degree of isolation provide a setting that most closely equals the conditions and stresses that are likely to be faced on a long-duration human mission in space. This information comes to us from the nasa.gov website. So let me just run down some frequently asked questions about Antarctica. So first off, what is Antarctica? Antarctica is the 5th largest continent on Earth. It's almost completely covered in ice. Antarctica covers the Earth's south pole. What is Antarctica like? Well, Antarctica is the coldest place on Earth. The average temperature in the winter is minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit. The temperature in the center of Antarctica is much lower than the temperature on the coasts. The lowest temperature ever recorded in Antarctica was minus 129 degrees Fahrenheit. The highest temperature ever recorded in Antarctica was 59 degrees Fahrenheit. Antarctica has just 2 seasons, summer and winter. Antarctica has 6 months of daylight in its summer and 6 months of darkness in its winter. The seasons are caused by the tilt of the Earth's axis to the sun. The direction of the tilt never changes, but as Earth orbits the sun, different parts of the planet are exposed to direct sunlight. During summer, Antarctica is on the side of the Earth tilted toward the sun and is in constant sunlight. In the winter, Antarctica is on the side of the Earth tilted away from the sun, causing the continent to be dark. Antarctica is considered a desert because it receives very little rain or snowfall. The amount of snow that does fall does not melt, but builds up over hundreds and thousands of years to form large, thick ice sheets. Antarctica's terrain is made up of glaciers, ice shelves, and icebergs. Antarctica has no trees or bushes. The only plants that can survive the extreme cold are lichens, mosses, and algae. Who lives in Antarctica? Antarctica is too cold for people to live there for a long time. Scientists take turns going there to study the ice. Tourists visit Antarctica in the summers. The oceans surrounding Antarctica are home to many types of whales, and Antarctica is also home to seals and penguins. So what can NASA learn about the Earth by studying Antarctica? NASA uses satellites to study the ice on Antarctica and how the continent is changing. Scientists want to know how changes in Earth's climate are affecting Antarctica's ice sheets. They also want to know how changes in Antarctic ice might affect Earth's climate. One tool that NASA uses is the Ice, Cloud, and Land Elevation Satellite, or the IceSat. Using IceSat, NASA can measure changes in the size of Antarctica's ice sheets. IceSat also helps NASA understand how changes in Earth's atmosphere and climate affect polar ice and global sea levels. Melting ice sheets may impact sea levels all over the world. NASA instruments have also helped scientists create detailed maps of the surface of Antarctica. The maps help researchers when planning trips to Antarctica. They also give the public a clearer view of the continent. So what can NASA learn about space from studying Antarctica? Antarctica is also a good place to find meteorites or rocks that fall from space to Earth. The number of meteorites found in Antarctica is equal to the number of meteorites found in the rest of the world combined. This is because meteorites are easier to see on the white ice, and because meteorites that fall to Antarctica become preserved in the ice. NASA scientists have used the Antarctic environment to study Mars. The desert conditions in Antarctica are like the conditions on Mars. NASA tested robots in Antarctica that later landed on Mars. NASA scientists also went to Antarctica to study astronaut nutrition. Like people in Antarctica in the winter, astronauts in space are not in the sunlight. The sun helps the human body make vitamins. Scientists study people that visit Antarctica to learn how to help astronauts in space get enough vitamins. So there's information on nasa.gov about the Antarctic Station and analog mission. Next up, I'll give you some information about one of the main stations, McMurdo Station. McMurdo Station is Antarctica's largest community and a functional modern-day science station which includes a harbor, 3 airfields, 2 seasonal, a heliport, and more than 100 buildings, including the Albert P. Crary Science and Engineering Center. The station is also home to the continent's 2 ATMs, both provided by Wells Fargo Bank. The primary focus of the work done at McMurdo Station is science, but most of the residents, approximately 1,000 in the summer and around 250 in the winter, are not scientists, but station personnel who are there to provide support for operations, logistics, information technology, construction, and maintenance. Scientists and other personnel at McMurdo are participants in the USAP, which coordinates research and operational support in the region. Werner Herzog did a documentary in 2007 called Encounters at the End of the World, which reported on life and culture at McMurdo Station from the point of view of the residents. And in 2013, Anthony Powell did a documentary called Antarctica: A Year on Ice, which provides time-lapse photography of Antarctica intertwined with personal accounts from residents of the McMurdo Station and the adjacent Scott base over the course of a year. They had that documentary, the Antarctica: A Year on Ice, on Netflix for a time, and I saw it. It was a very interesting documentary. It really gave you insight into the workings of the station and the residents. It was really interesting to watch that. An annual sea lift by cargo ships as part of Operation Deep Freeze delivers 8 million U.S. gallons of fuel and 11 million pounds of supplies and equipment for McMurdo residents. The ships are operated by the U.S. Military Sea Lift Command, but are manned by civilian mariners. Cargo may range from mail, construction materials, trucks, tractors, dry and frozen food, to scientific instruments. U.S. Coast Guard icebreakers break a ship channel through the ice-clogged McMurdo Sound in order for supply ships to reach Winter Quarters Bay at McMurdo. Additional supplies and personnel are flown in to nearby Williamsfield from Christchurch, New Zealand. McMurdo Base is about 2 miles from Scott Base, the New Zealand science station, and the entire island is within a sector claimed by New Zealand. Recently, there has been criticism leveled at the base regarding its construction projects, particularly the McMurdo-Amundsen-Scott South Pole Highway. So, don't want to go too long, but there's a lot of other interesting information in the Wikipedia article, which I've just read a portion of, on McMurdo Station. So you can find out the history of the station and a lot of other information about the history. They also had a nuclear power station there in the 60s and 70s. And you can find out more about climate, communications, transportation, and points of interest on the Wikipedia article about McMurdo Station. So hopefully that gives you some insight into the Antarctic Station analog mission for NASA. And next month I'll be doing a more Christmas theme, but I will return to the analog missions in January and then move on to another topic once I've exhausted those. So hopefully you found this interesting and would like to read more about it. You can go to nasa.gov, analog missions, and you can also look up individual things on Wikipedia. This is KF5PDS, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, at this time, I'd like to turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll see if we have any additional check-ins and give us the report on what we can see in the sky over the next couple of weeks.
This is KE5ICX. I'm the alternate control for tonight's Skynet. I'll take additional check-ins. If you're listening and you have not checked in, we'd like to know you're out there. Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Please come now.
Echo Bravo Bravo, David in Dallas.
Whiskey Oscar Alpha 5, Romeo Foxtrot Golf, all in Dallas.
November 5, Lima Zulu Yankee in Keller.
Kilo India 5, Bravo November, Papa, Luis, San Antonio.
Bravo, number 4, Mike, Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power.
All right, very good. I've got 5 check-ins. I will need a fill. No, it's not you, Ted. You're never the fill. I got W5EVB, Dave in Dallas. I'm not sure here. I got a Whiskey 0 call, I think, a Romeo Foxtrot, the Dallas call. Would you give me your call sign again and name, please?
Golf 5, Romeo Foxtrot Golf, Rollin in Dallas.
I should have known that. Whiskey Alpha 5 RFG, Rollin in Dallas. I'm sorry, I had a brain lock there. Next station, N5LZY in Keller. Can I get your name, please, sir?
Good evening, everyone. Name here is Brad Bravo, Romeo Alpha Delta.
Thank you, Brad. N5LZY in Keller. KI5BNA, Luis in San Antonio over Egglink. And then I've got Ted, WB4MFI in Dallas. Any additional check-ins, please come now. All right, hearing none, we'll go ahead and continue. My segment here is what you can see in the sky over the next couple of weeks. I steal all my best material from earthsky.org/tonight. You can go there too. They actually give you more than just tonight. They give you additional information on what you can see every night of the week, about a week in advance. So go there and you'll get that information. If you are interested in following along, there is a diagram, just one, some triangle, west late autumn evenings. If you go to w5fc.org, you'll find it there, or at the earthsky.org website. It's a triangle, folks, with Deneb, Altair, and Vega. In late November and early December, look west in the evening for the summer triangle. It's the signature star formation of our northern hemisphere summer, but you can see it in the northern autumn, too. The summer triangle showcases three brilliant stars, Vega, Deneb, and Altair, in three separate constellations. The summer triangle still shines in the western evening sky at mid-northern latitudes or further north. What's more, the summer triangle will continue to shine after dark throughout December and January. Look for it tonight at early evening high in your western sky. In the month of June, around the June solstice, the summer triangle pops out in the east as darkness falls and shines all night long. But now in late November, the summer triangle appears way high in the west at evening. As evening deepens, the summer triangle descends westward, with all three of its stars staying above the horizon until mid to late evening. There, the summer triangle's most southerly star will set around 9:30 to 10:30 tonight at mid-northern latitudes. Notice where you can see summer triangle at a given time this evening. The summer triangle returned to the same place in the sky some 4 minutes earlier with each passing day, or 2 hours earlier with each passing month. As the summer triangle sinks close to the western horizon about mid-evening, turn around to see Orion, the signpost constellation of winter, rising in the east. So the bottom line is, look westward this evening for the three brilliant stars of the humongous summer triangle, Vega, Deneb, and Altair. This bit comes from the U.S. Naval Observatory, usno.navy.mil. I would recommend you put in U.S. Naval Observatory and Sky this week in your favorite search engine, because the URL is not the easiest one to give out over the radio. Nevertheless, this is what they say. The moon brightens the sky this Thanksgiving week as she climbs toward the northern reaches of the ecliptic. Full moon on the 23rd at 12:39 Eastern Standard. November's full moon is popularly known as the frosty moon or the beaver moon, the latter name deriving from the frenzied activities of these animals as they make ready for the winter's hibernation. Lunar climbs with relatively obscure autumnal constellations to cross through the middle of the great winter circle. Look for the rising, nearly new moon near the bright star Aldebaran on the evening of the 23rd. The full moon washes out the faint stars of the autumnal constellations, but you can wake up until the later evening hours. Things will get better as the bright stars of winter take their place in the eastern sky. You should have no trouble spotting Orion, perhaps the most distinctive constellation in the sky as the midnight hour approaches. Orion straddles the celestial equator, so parts of him are visible from every part of the planet. Thanks to this prominent position and his distinctive stars, this star pattern has been a fixture in skywar for just about every culture that has inhabited the planet. In almost all of these legends, Orion personifies an important warrior figure, god or demigod. Some of the oldest depictions of him identify as Osiris, the ancient Egyptian god of the underworld, who in turn personified the souls of the dead pharaohs in funerary rites. Known to the Egyptians as Sahu, he is depicted on temple walls, followed by Sophis, the brightest star, Sirius, which was tied to the cult of the goddess Isis. Surrounding Orion is a large circle of bright stars which form a large asterism known as the Great Winter Circle. Of the 25 brightest stars in the sky, 9 of them lie in the bounds of the circle. The bright yellow star Capella approaches the zenith as midnight passes. Capella is the third brightest star in the northern sky and sixth brightest overall. It is the lead star in the constellation of Aruga, the charioteer. We talked about that last week. The name Capella means she-goat in Latin, and the star commemorates Amalthea, the goat that nursed the infant Zeus in Greek mythology. In one variation of this myth, Zeus broke off one of Amalthea's horns, from which sprang whatever horns the viewer desired. The horn became widely known as cornucopia, or horn of plenty. Capella is thus an appropriate marker for an annual celebration of Thanksgiving, beaming down from high in the sky to remind us of the bounties we enjoy here on Earth. On to planets. The early evening sky is still hosting two bright planets, Saturn and Mars. Saturn may still be glimpsed low in the southwestern sky at dusk and hangs just 6 degrees above the horizon as twilight ends. He sets shortly after 7 p.m. Mars crosses the meridian at the end of the evening twilight and continues his trek across the dim constellations of autumn sky. He is currently moving through the stars of Aquarius, the water bearer, and he remains the brightest object in this part of the sky. Although his telescopic appearance is now little more than a bright pink-hued dot, take some time to focus your attention on him on the 26th. On that date, at around noon Pacific Standard Time, the Mars InSight space probe is scheduled to land on the red planet in an area known as Elysium Planitia. Following an entry into Mars' thin atmosphere, the probe will undergo 6 minutes of terror as it decelerates from some 13,000 miles per hour to a gentle touchdown on the planet's dusty surface. The stationary lander will attempt to drill some 5 meters or 16 feet into the surface to measure the planet's internal heat flow. Finally, Venus greets early risers in the pre-dawn sky. The dazzling planet has sprung from the horizon in spectacular fashion over the past few weeks and is currently shining at close to her greatest brilliance. You'll find her in the vicinity of the bright star Spica for the duration of the week. And that's it. That's what I've got from the U.S. Naval Observatory this evening. So I'll send the net back to you, Miss Billy, KF5PS from KE5ICX.
Great. Thank you very much, Tom. This is KF5PDS, your net control for the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is our featured constellation. So at this time, I'd like to remind you that you can go to w5fc.org to follow along with sky charts and pictures. Images. So if you would go there, you can follow along with the next presentation. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to Carolyn, KC50ZT. The net is yours.
Billy, and this is KC50ZT, and tonight we're going to look at sort of a faint constellation, but its name is Camelopardalis. If you wonder where on earth did they get that, that's from the Latin version of the Greek words for camel and leopard. Now, why do they think of this? Easy, it's the giraffe. It was called the camel leopard because it had a long neck like a camel and a body with spots like a leopard. It was created by the Dutch astronomer Petrus Plancius. And this constellation, like I said, is pretty faint, with no stars brighter than 4th magnitude. And the Greeks did not see any stars in Camelopardalis. And they thought this region of the sky, as well as what is now the constellation Lynx, was empty. Therefore, there aren't any myths associated with this one. And the brightest star in the constellation is Beta, and it is magnitude 4.03. That gives you an idea how faint this is, this constellation. But Beta is a binary star. It has a yellow G-type supergiant for the primary. And the second brightest star is CS, Camelopardalis. It's also a binary. It's a blue-white B-type supergiant, and it's a variable. that exhibits what's called non-radial pulsations, which means some portions of the stars expand at the same time that other parts contract, which must look weird if you think about it. But anyway, it has a magnitude 8.7 companion, only about 3 arc seconds away. And it's located in a reflection nebula, VDB 14. However, it does have a nice asterism, and this is called Campbell's Cascade. This is an asterism of more than 20 stars between magnitude 5 and 10 that form a straight line in the sky. This line stretches over a distance of 5 moon diameters and ends at an open star cluster, NGC 1502. And it hadn't had its name too long. It was named after Father Lucian Kimball, a Franciscan friar who discovered it. And he wrote a letter to Walter Scott Houston, who was a columnist for Sky and Telescope magazine. And he described this site as a beautiful cascade of faint stars tumbling from the northwest down to the open cluster of 1502. And Houston then named the asterism Campbell's Cascade in his Deep Sky Wonders in 1980. I keep meaning to dig out my copy of that, but I think it's tucked away somewhere. But it is a beautiful sight. And our next object, deep sky object, is NGC 2403, an intermediate spiral galaxy, magnitude 8.9, discovered by Herschel. And sort of interesting, the northern spiral arm of 2403 connects to NGC 2404. And this is a nebulous region in an external galaxy, also located in the constellation. The galaxy is an outlying member of the M81 group, located in Ursa Major group of galaxies, and 24 was the first galaxy discovered beyond our local group that contained known Cepheid variables. And it's worth keeping a watch on. 2 supernovae were reported in this galaxy in 1954, and then 2004. Objects in this area that, if you look at the photograph that Tom has, you can find a lot of objects to look for, just nebula, clusters, and everything. Okay, and then as I mentioned, NGC 1502 is an open cluster located at the end of Campbell's Cascade. It's just a small cluster. It has about 45 stars. Okay. subject, NGC 2366, is an irregular galaxy and faint, magnitude 11.4, but it does have a star-forming region in it. It makes a pretty sight. And then we have, these are all NGC numbers. It's next one is 1569, a dwarf irregular galaxy. And it's about magnitude 11.9. But it's notable for the two superstar clusters which it contains. And both clusters have had star-forming activity, but while one cluster in the northwest region mostly contains young stars with a few older bred stars, the other cluster near the center contains mostly old stars, red giants and supergiants. Moving on to IC 342. It's another intermediate spiral galaxy at magnitude 9.1, and it's one of the two brightest galaxies in what's called the IC 342 Mapi group. That's the nearest group of galaxies to our local group. And most member galaxies are concentrated either around IC 342 or Mapi 1. It's an elliptical galaxy in Cassiopeia. But 342 lies close to the galactic and is obscured by a lot of interstellar dust, which makes it difficult to observe. So Camelopardalis may be faint, but it does have some beautiful objects in it, and if you have a big enough scope, go looking for them. And especially take a look at Kimball's Cascade. So unless there's any questions, Billy, I'll turn it back to you. K50ZT.
Great. Thank you very much, Carolyn. This is KF5PDS, Net Control for Skynet. Does anybody have any questions for Carolyn before we move on to our next segment? If so, please come now with your call sign. Not hearing any, so let's move on to our next segment, Recent Astronomical Discoveries. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to Brenda, WB5OZL. The net is yours.
Thank you, Billy. This is Brenda, WB5OZL. Our first article is entitled Exoplanet Stepping Stones. Astronomers have gleaned some of the best data yet on the composition of a planet known as HR 8799c, a young giant gas planet about 7 times the mass of Jupiter that orbits its star every 200 years. The team used state-of-the-art instrumentation at the WM Keck Observatory on Mauna Kea, Hawaii, to confirm the existence of water in the planet's atmosphere, as well as the lack of methane. While the researchers had previously made similar measurements of this planet, these new, more robust data demonstrate the power of combining high-resolution spectroscopy with a technique known as adaptive optics, which corrects for the blurring effect of Earth's atmosphere. This type of technology is exactly what we want to use in the future to look for signs of life on an Earth-like planet. We aren't there yet, but we are marching ahead. Just Dimitri Mawet, an associate professor of astronomy at Caltech and a research scientist at JPL, which Caltech manages for NASA. Mawet is a co-author of a new paper on the findings published today in the Astronomical Journal. The lead author is Ji Wang, formerly a postdoctoral scholar at Caltech and now an assistant professor at Ohio State University. Taking pictures of planets that orbit other stars, exoplanets, is a formidable task. Light from the host stars far outshines the planets, making them difficult to see. More than a dozen exoplanets have been directly imaged so far, including HR 8799c and 3 of its planetary companions. In fact, HR 8799 is the only multiple planet system to have its picture taken. Discovered using adaptive optics on the Keck 2 telescope, the direct images of HR 8799 are the first ever of a planetary system orbiting a star other than our Sun. Once an image is obtained, astronomers can use instruments called spectrometers to break apart the planet's light like a prism, turning sunlight into a rainbow, thereby revealing the fingerprints of chemicals. So far, the strategy has been used to learn about the atmospheres of several giant exoplanets. The next step is to do the same thing, only for smaller planets that are closer to their stars. The closer a planet is to a star and the smaller its size, the harder it is to see. The goal is to look for chemicals in the atmospheres of Earth-like planets that orbit in the star's habitable zone, including any biosignatures that might indicate life, such as water, oxygen, and methane. Mouette's group hopes to do just this with an instrument on the upcoming 30-meter telescope, a giant telescope being planned for the late 2020s by several national and international partners, including Caltech. But for now, the scientists are perfecting their technique using Keck Observatory and in the process learning about the compositions and dynamics of giant planets. Right now with Keck, we can already learn about the physics and dynamics of these giant exotic planets, which are nothing like our own solar system, said Wang. In the new study, the researchers used an instrument on the Keck 2 telescope called NIRSPEC, Near Infrared Cryogenic Shell Spectrograph, a resolution spectrometer that works in infrared light. They coupled the instrument with Keck Observatory's powerful adaptive optics, a method for creating crisper pictures using a guide star in the sky as a means to measure and correct the blurring turbulence of Earth's atmosphere. This is the first time the technique has been demonstrated on directly imaged planets using what's known as the L-band, a type of infrared light with a wavelength of around 3.5 micrometers and a region of the spectrum with many detailed chemical fingerprints. Realize how long this article is, so I think I will stop there and go to the other article, and you can go read it if you want to see the rest of it. The other article is entitled Scientists Discover New Pinwheel Star System. An international team of scientists has discovered a new massive star system, one that also challenges existing theories on how large stars eventually die. The system is likely the first of its kind ever discovered in our own galaxy, says Benjamin Pope, a NASA Sagan Fellow at the New York University Center for Cosmology and Particle Physics and one of the researchers. Specifically, the scientists detected a gamma-ray burst progenitor system, a type of supernova that blasts out an extremely powerful and narrow jet of plasma, which is thought to occur only in distant galaxies. Unexpected, such a system will be found in our galaxy, only in younger galaxies much further away, adds Pope. Given its brightness, it is surprising it was not discovered a lot sooner. The discovery of the system, reported in the journal Nature, Astronomy, and dubbed APEP, APEP, also includes scientists from the Netherlands Institute for Radio Astronomy, the University of Sydney, the University of Edinburgh, the University of Sheffield, and the University of New South Wales. The system, an estimated 8,000 light years away from Earth, is adorned with a dust pinwheel whose strangely slow motion suggests current theories on star death may be incomplete. When the most massive stars in our universe near the end of their lives, they produce fast winds, typically moving at more than 1,000 kilometers per second, that carry away large amounts of the star's mass. These fast winds should carry away the star's rotational energy and slow it down long before it dies. These massive stars are often found with a partner in which the fast wind from the dying star will collide with its companion to produce a shock that emits an X-ray and radio frequencies and produces exotic dust patterns, explains Joseph Callicamp, postdoctoral fellow at the Netherlands Institute for Radio Astronomy and lead author on the paper. APEP's dust pinwheel moves much slower than the wind in the system, he adds. One way this can occur is that one of the massive stars is rotating so quickly that it's nearly tearing itself apart. Such a rotation means that when it runs out of fuel and begins to explode as a supernova, it will collapse at the poles before the equator, producing a gamma ray burst. Ladies, both from ScienceDaily.com. I'll turn it back to the net. This is WB5OZL.
Great, thank you, Brenda. This is KF5PDS, net control for Skynet. All right, at this time, we'll turn the net over to Tony and T5TM to give us the report on space exploration and space history. All right, Tony and T5TM, the net is yours.
Billy, as others have mentioned, the big news in space exploration is the InSight lander is expected to land on Mars this Monday, touching down at 3 p.m. EST on this Monday. This is not a rover, but it is a neat geology probe that's going to try to drill beneath the surface and measure the heat flux from beneath the surface of Mars, as well as conduct seismometry. So it's going to be very exciting for learning more about the core and crust of Mars. The areology, not the geology, but the areology. Coverage on NASA Live on their website begins at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on Monday. That's 1 p.m. Dallas Time, 1 p.m. Dallas Time on Monday to find out more about the landing. It is 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Dallas Time. 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Dallas Time. Okay, and also another announcement from NASA this week, the first uncrewed launch of the crewed Dragon capsule is scheduled for January 7th, 2019. Very exciting. We have two private companies in competition to get us out of using Russian space capsules and into using home-built ones again. The first launch of the crewed Dragon is scheduled for January 7th. We all know everything in space gets delayed. We'll see what happens, but I'm hoping it'll be soon. Of exciting space-related birthdays this week. On November 18th, 1923, Alan B. Al Shepard was born. He flew the first crewed Mercury capsule, Mercury Redstone 3. He missed out on the Gemini program because of a bout of Meniere's disease, but he then walked on the moon and played golf on the moon as part of Apollo 14. November 19th, 1956, Eileen Collins was born. She was a test pilot as well as the first female shuttle pilot and the first female spacecraft commander for the U.S. She flew on 4 missions, STS-63, 84, 93, and 114. In fact, Erin, who's sitting next to me, points out that she saw the launch where Eileen Collins was the first female pilot. That must have been pretty neat. Seems
going on this week in space history. In recent space history, back in 2013, MAVEN was launched. This was the Mars Atmosphere Volatile Evolution Orbiter, designed to study trace gases in the Martian atmosphere. It carefully measured both particles and fields around the planet as well as gases that were leaving. It found that the solar wind really does erode the Martian atmosphere, especially during and after solar storms. Once had an atmosphere that was much richer in carbon dioxide, and thanks to a greenhouse effect could have supported liquid on the surface. But alas, that was about 3.7 billion years ago. MAVEN helped quantify the rate of loss and the processes that made all that good stuff go away. In 1961, the 19th of November, the RL-10 rocket engine was declared ready for flight. On Earth is that? Well, this was the first liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen rocket engine, the first cryogenic rocket engine to become operational. This was originally developed by Pratt & Whitney for NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center. They had a very long test program to make sure the engine was throttleable and reliable and didn't go boom. Over 700 test firings. Part of what's neat about the RL-10 is that it was the very first cryogenic rocket engine, and it's still in production and use today. They still put this thing on upper stages. You can still buy one if you have the cash. In space history, on November 19th, 1964, all of the original Atlas ICBMs, the Atlas ENF, were declared surplus to requirements, too old, not good enough, we don't want them. Well, these things were then put in protected storage and used to launch satellites until 1995. In fact, the first successful U.S. satellite launch after the Challenger disaster was an Atlas. Several other satellites had become inoperative, and it was urgently needed and provided a huge relief to the U.S. space program as well as to U.S. weather forecasters. The most prolific source of exploratory scientific space program launches is the aptly named Explorer program. Explorers 25, 30, 55, and 84 will all launch this week in various years. Explorer 24 and 25 were pretty cool because these were giant Death Star balloons. They were shiny balloons painted with polka dots. Their real purpose was just to sit there in space, and then people would watch them to see how much upper atmosphere drag affected them. Explorer 30 studied solar radiation, and Explorer 51, well, was the same as Explorer 55. I believe it was for studying the exosphere, the far upper atmosphere of Earth. But by far the most interesting Explorer this week was launched in 2004, Explorer 84, the Swift Gamma Ray Observatory. It's still operational. It was named not for an acronym, but for its ability to rapidly switch pointing to any direction in three-dimensional space. It could rapidly obey commands in turn suddenly in case astronomers on Earth detected a gamma ray burst. On January 10, 2018, NASA renamed it the Neil Grells Swift Observatory after its original principal investigator died in early 2017. News in 1969 on November 22nd and 1974 on November 23rd, Skynet satellites were launched. This is Skynet, and well, I like talking about Skynet. These were military communications satellites. They had a checkered early history, but eventually did provide significant services to the U.S., Canadian, and European NATO forces. Skynet 2B lasted for more than 20 years. It was still fully operational in 1994. Now, the coolest and funniest thing to happen, you have to watch the video. There's a link at w5fc.org. The day we launched the escape tower, the 4-inch flight, Mercury Redstone 1. They put a Mercury capsule on a redstone booster, put it on a launch platform, filled it up with fuel and oxidizer, charged the batteries, and pressed the big red button. The engines produced a pillar of smoke and flame, and then nothing happened. Then a few seconds later, the escape tower took off and shot more than 400 feet in the air. Then the parachutes popped out, and a flashing light appeared on top of the space capsule. What the heck was this? Well, it turned out that as the rocket began to lift off, plugs in the base of the rocket pulled out in the wrong order. It caused an abort. And then the capsule, thinking that it was re-entering and already going to ground, tried to do everything fast. It jettisoned the escape tower. You don't need that to land. It released the because you do need those. And it activated all the recovery aids, the sonar beacon, the flashing light, the radio transmitter, and the big laugh. For the capsule, there's an astronaut in here. You'd better find the astronaut. Flight Director Chris Kraft rejected several proposals for what to do with this rocket. They considered even shooting it with a rifle to let the fuel and oxidizer out. He thought that was too likely to start a fire. They just decided to let it sit there on the pad until all the batteries ran out and all the liquid oxygen boiled off to make it safe to handle. He said that the first rule of flight control is if you don't know what to do, don't do anything. And that's the story of November 21st, 1960, the day we launched the escape tower, and of this week in space history. Thank you for listening. I'm NT5T.
Great, thank you, Tony. Boy, there's certainly a lot going on this time of the year in space history, so thanks for giving us a rundown on all those important events. All right, next up, it looks like we have a little bit of time, so let me see how much time we have. Yeah, we have a few minutes. At this time, I'd like to turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll give us a bit of info on some overhead satellite passages we might see over the next few days, and then if you'll take maybe a final round of check-ins and give me a final for the net. I would appreciate it. This is KF5PDS to KE5ICX.
And this is KE5ICX. Well, what do we got? We've got a few passes for tonight. Let's see, it's 10:23. Yeah, we got a few here we can do. The Hubble Space Telescope has a good pass on November 25th. Actually, where did I come up with 24? All right, there is one on the 25th, a 0.9 magnitude at 4:50 a.m. at west-southwest, reaches its highest point at 4:54 at 53 degrees, and then falls at 4:58. The next pass that's pretty good, well, that's it for that. I don't know why I have two passes there, but strange. I must have made a big mistake. Nothing new. No worries. Let's figure out what happens next. Evi Sat has a number of passes. This one is usually north to south, or south to north. Let's see here. Yeah, south to north actually are all of its passes. You can find a bunch of those. This one is, first one's November 25th at 2.9 magnitude, not too bad, 1918 local time out of the south-southeast, reaches its highest point at 63 degrees at 1913, and then falls to due north at 1918. The next pass is on the 27th, 3.4 magnitude, 1933, due south, reaches its highest point at 61 degrees, 1938, and then falls at 1943 to the north-northwest. Then finally, November 30th has a good pass, 3.0 magnitude, 1922, due south, 1927, at 84 degrees west-southwest, and then falls at 1932 to the north-northwest. Those are good enough. I think those are the ones that you can spot. We don't have any of the exciting and fun stuff that we normally do with the space shuttle, not the space shuttle, the International Space Station. I knew it had two S's in it. The International Space Station it doesn't have any passes currently that are favorable or any of the really cool stuff up there. But you can always count on Invisat with its north-south circumpolar orbit and its relative large size that gives us enough of a reflection to really see what's going on. So that's what I got there. Let me see. I'll go ahead and take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, if you enjoyed the net and have not checked in, please do so now. This is KE5ICX. I'm listening. Please come with your call sign, your name, and your location. This is last call.
Five Whiskey Tango Hotel, William and Irving. VBB, recheck with comment. November 5, Hotel Yankee Papa, Tom and Irving.
All right, let me get the two check-ins, and then I'll get the recheck. I got K5WTH, William and Irving, and N5HYP, Tom and Irving. I got you two checked in. That gives us a total of 26. EBB, David, go ahead with your recheck.
Normal state.
All right, thanks, Tom. I was listening to Billy's presentation earlier in the net about McMurdo Station, and it recalled to me that when I worked at Applied Research Labs Department of the University of Texas at Austin, we had several employees who were stationed at McMurdo and conducted some research and worked on some things there. And I just checked the website and found some interesting information. We just call it ARLUT. It's located at the J.J. Pickle campus in the north part of Austin. And ARLUT partners with NASA on ISAT-2. So their participation with the McMurdo Station continues today.
W5FC.
And it has been going on actually for a very long time. It's a diversified set of skilled scientists that work on a lot of different things, I guess, a lot of technology areas. But one of the things ARLUT did was basically worked on the U.S. Navy transit program, which predated the GPS system, but allowed Navy operations, navigation operations globally, I guess, the transit system. But it was decommissioned. But when it was decommissioned, ARLUT converted those satellites for a new function, which was the Navy's ionospheric monitoring system, and electromagnetics and satellite, computerized ionospheric tomography is a continuing field of study and expertise by ARLUT. So interesting stuff from my former employer. I thought was interesting and relevant to Billy's presentation. W5EB.
Good, thank you, David. That's very interesting. And repurposed space stuff is always fascinating to me personally, and that happens more often than you think. Okay, very good. Thanks, David. Any additional check-ins before I send it back to net control? Right. Miss Billy, we have 26 total check-ins this evening. So back to you, KF5PDS from KE5ICX.
Great. Thank you very much, David, for bringing that information. That was really interesting to hear that. I know there's a lot going on. There is such a rich research area that we could, easily spend 90 minutes just talking about McMurdo. So very cool. I'm very glad you got that information. All right, and copy that. Tonight we had 26 hams participating on the air. So thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful Internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So until next Saturday night, this is KF5PDS, Billy, and I'll be closing the net at 22:31 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. So 7-3 everyone, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And remember, coming up next is the Afterglow Movie Net, where we'll be discussing UFO. All right, so 7-3 everybody.
About a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and discuss the first episode of the 1970 television series UFO. We'll tell you more then. Come back in 5. This is KE5I6.
no need to use the repeater before we begin the net. Alright, this is the weekly Afterglow net where we discuss movies and TV shows of the finest nature. Tonight we have a British-made TV show called UFO Identified. And I'd like to ask Tom, K5ICX, if he would give us his usual stellar synopsis of this fine program. Are you there?
Oh, yes, I am. And I'll go ahead and give you this finely crafted story as provided by Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia available in finer stores everywhere. This is what they say. Identified was the name of the episode. This is the first and pilot episode of UFO, a 1970 British television science fiction series about alien invasion of Earth. The screenplay was written by Gary Anderson and Sylvia Anderson and Tony Barwick. The director was Gary Anderson. The episode was filmed between April 28th and May 12th, 1969, and aired on ATV Midlands, whatever that is, on September 16th, 1970. The series was created by Gary and Sylvia Anderson with Reg Hill and produced by the Andersons and moved grades Century 21 Productions for Gray's ITC Entertainment Company. Here's the storyline. It says, two women and a man come across a UFO that has landed in the woods. The man, Peter Carlin, starts filming the craft, but the threesome are attacked by the alien occupants. One of the women is killed. Carlin is shot and injured, whilst the third, Carlin's sister, is abducted. Increasing UFO activity starting in 1970 brings, as shown in the episode Confetti Check A-OK, the United States, the Soviet Union, the United Kingdom, France, and an unidentified side of Germany together to combat the perceived threat. Whilst en route to the secret meeting with the British Prime Minister, Colonel Ed Stryker, played by Ed Bishop, and General Henderson, Grant Taylor's Rolls-Royce Phantom 6, and two escort police motorbikes are attacked by a UFO. Stryker is thrown clear, but Henderson is seriously wounded. After 10 years of planning, the international community has paid for the construction of a secret organization known as Shadow, the Supreme Headquarters Alien Defense Organization in Britain, to track and deal with any incoming UFO threats. Stryker is now in command of this organization. Shadow is hidden beneath Harlington Stryker, a working film studio used as a cover for the underground base located there. Stryker's cover involves being a film producer. Following a fire at Westbrook Electronics, Colonel Friedman, played by George Selwell, is piloting a transporter aircraft from Los Angeles, which contains top-secret Utronic equipment to track UFOs in deep space. Plus its creator, Colonel Virginia Lake, SID, that's Space Intruder Detector, an early warning computerized tracking satellite detects incoming alien UFOs, detects an approaching UFO, or as known in the series, UFOs. The UFO attempts to intercept the transporter, but is shot down by Sky 1 interceptor aircraft, piloted by Captain Peter Carlin. You knew that. Launched from the Skydiver submarine. An alien survives the UFO crash in the ocean and is examined back at Shadow's medical laboratory. The alien quickly dies from what appears to be the effects of Earth's atmosphere. Following an autopsy, the Shadow discovers that the alien has numerous organ transplants harvested from humans. It transpires that at least one of these come from Carlin's sister, who disappeared in the 1970 UFO incident shown at the beginning. Cue spooky end music, end of episode 1 of UFO. Back to you, Miss Brenda. This is KE5ICX. Ooh, scary.
Absolutely. Nothing is scarier than being abducted and having your organs pulled out. Okay, let's do check-ins. We'll start with low power short time. Give us your consonant phonetically, your QTH, your name, and whether or not you saw this program. Please come now. Okay, let's do regular check-ins then. Please come now.
Kilo Golf 5, Zulu, November, Juliet, Frank in Flower Mound, and yes, I did see it.
Charlie 5, Oscar Zulu Tango, Carolyn in Louisville, and I did see it.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Tango, Sierra Kilo, Burl in Dallas. I did see the movie.
November 5, Hotel Yankee Papa, Tom and Irving. Yep, we saw the movie.
Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom in Louisville. I saw it too.
Echo Bravo Bravo, David in Dallas. Yes, I saw it.
Let's get those check-ins. I got KG5ZNJ Frank, KC5OZT Carolyn, KF5TSK Burl, N5HYP Tom, KE5ICX Tom, and W5EBB David. Okay, do we have any Echo Link check-ins? We'll give you a little extra time.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman, and yes, I saw the episode.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Zulu Charlie Tango, David in Frisco, and yes, I saw the show.
KF5PDS, Billy, and the next one, I didn't get the whole call. Could you please come back with that and your name? I would appreciate it.
Sure. This is Kilo Golf 5, Zulu Charlie Tango, David in Frisco, and yes, I saw the show.
ZCT, Dave. Okay, anybody else in any mode, please come now. All right, well, I can't wait to get started. This is going to be so much fun. Okay, let's talk about the plot. KG5ZNJ Frank wanted to start. And everybody who checked in has seen the movie. So, Frank, go ahead and you can lead us off.
Yeah, this is Golf 5, Zulu, November, Juliet, Frank. Well, what can I say? Batten down the hatches. This was one from the Special Reserve, I'll tell you that. Wow.
I only did watch about half of it, unfortunately, and it was only because of, Christmas decorations and my wife, so, when you're the amateur radio guy who's supposed to be the expert on electrical stuff, guess who has to fix all the busted Christmas lights? Well, I guess all of you are doing it too, so that took most of my days. I only had time to watch a little bit of it, about half of it, before coming on. They got me. I'd never seen this before, this series, so they got me right at the very start with, the go-go music and the IBM Selectric style teletype machine. I'm a huge fan of those, mainly because I have an old IBM Selectric typewriter at home here, and I work for IBM. Love it. So I just love that. This series is so bad, it's awesome. So it's just one of those, and I can tell you that this was the future that I was both promised as a child and expected as an adult. And I've been disappointed my whole life because it never worked out. I also learned that UFO isn't UFO, it's UFO. That's been said by Tom, so that was funny. When I was a kid, I had never heard of this series, but I did have the toys. I had the Shadow tanks, and I also had an Interceptor toy that fired that missile, that goofy missile. And I never knew it was a TV series until recently, and I was very happy to see it, actually. It's obviously the original Jerry Anderson Super Mario Nation live-action attempt. Let me reset here. I really got a great laugh right out at the beginning with the police moped escort. That was really funny, especially when they're screaming furiously to keep up with them. So that was really funny. I don't know. That made me laugh. The Space Intruder Detector spaceship reminded me of a 1950s arm-held vacuum cleaner. I thought that was very funny. The wardrobe, what do you say? I mean, you got to give it to 21st century fashions. Wow. You had Dr. Evil outfits. You had bleached blonde proto-mullets. You had purple hair. You had dudes in mesh shirts. And you had gratuitous miniskirts and catsuits with over-the-top camera shots. And boy, did they indulge in those. They just zoomed right in on the rear ends. Wow. And overuse of my favorite classic sci-fi material, Mylar. So 10 out of 10. The story was actually kind of interesting, joking aside, that you had this humanoid race of aliens raiding the Earth, presumably to harvest organs to stay alive, because their race had basically burned out genetically. Well, something like that. I guess it was interesting. Influences. Star Wars played tribute to this series. I noted that the X-Wing pilots had the same basic helmets with the orange visors. And many Japanese cartoons were made in the 70s that I remember very well that really ripped off this series or drew inspiration, whatever, that were very big in Canada and Europe, and they were never played in the U.S. that I know of. So I know of all these cartoons that they played when I was a kid that basically copied this premise. What else? Austin Powers, wow, they drew influence from this movie, big deal, in a big way. So I guess that's what I got to say about what I saw for the plot. So back to you, Net Control. Sorry I was long.
That's okay. Those are wonderful comments. Yes, I was playing with Flight in Space too, and I got chips. But 70s fashions, boy, you just can't beat them. It was actually, this thing was made in the late 60s and came on TV in the 70s. So, they just the best fashions ever. And spacey stuff, silver, shiny spacesuits. Doesn't get any better than that. Okay, next up, KC5OZT Carolyn. What do you think about the plot or the show in general?
Well, it was one of my favorites back when it was shot on TV, and I don't think I missed an episode, and later bought, the DVD set to it, but, very intriguing plot, really funny stuff in it. I could count the clothing, but, the Colonel, attacked, and there really seems to be a serious threat to Earth, of course, and so they put together a defense thing, and a very intricate one. And yet, sometimes, one gets through. Let me reset. People, all, you might say, are friends with each. It's hard to describe, but and a nice touch to me was, of course, the boy that escaped, but his sister didn't, turns up working for Shadow, and actually gets to be the one to shoot it down. That was a nice touch to the plot, and there's too much to name, but and it gives a reason, for them coming to Earth. And and I love the Concorde. If any of y'all ever saw it fly, it was nice to see again. But I'll leave some of it for discussion for others. H50ZT.
Thank you. I want to point out that the Concorde droop nose is about visibility and not about a heat shield, as they said. They should have checked up on that. Okay, Bull, KF5TSK. You saw the movie. Give us your impression.
This is KF5TSK. Well, really, I enjoyed the movie. One of the two things that really stuck out was they kept showing these tape drives, and I was like, why are they showing tape drives? And, everything was supposed to be so modern and so advanced. Another thing that really bothered me was the women that worked for Shadow all had purple hair, and they had enough makeup to make Halloween apologize. Everything just seems so sexist that, women seem to have their place. But like I say, I enjoyed the movie. KF5TSK back to net.
Okay, N5HYP, Tom and company. You're next.
Hello, Brenda. This is N5HYP. Holly and I did see the episode tonight. It's interesting that Carolyn, had seen every episode. I'd never heard of this before. I'd never seen it before. I'd seen Anderson's previous work, the claymation, the Thunderbirds, and other things like that. But had never seen this live-action show. So it's kind of interesting. It's an interesting premise. I spent a little time reading some of the reviews, the user reviews on IMDb. Some of the people really liked it. A lot of them really liked it. I thought it was okay. I don't know that I would, if I were a kid, and if I'd seen it, I probably would have watched it because, it was kind of compelling, and, the effects were interesting. They were familiar. I mean, it felt like I was watching, stuff from the Thunderbirds with real people in it. But I thought some of the dialogue was contrived. I thought, plot-wise, I mean, it was very sexist. And as a result, it really stands, stark compared to modern sensibilities. The storyline's kind of interesting, and yet like the first person who reviewed this. This was the future that we were promised but never quite got. I liked one of the reviewers called it retrofuturism is what it looks like now. We'll talk more about that later. Back to net. This is N5HYP.
Okay, K5ICX. Tom, you're next.
Thank you, Brenda. I do have to admit, I have seen every episode, and I've seen every episode more than once, which means, original sin and then semi-original sin. So, yes, I've seen this show. I love the groovy opening. I think that's so cool, and I love groovy music. It's groovy. It's really groovy. The idea and the premise on this one, spooky, yep, spooky, harvesting organs, taking over Earthlings and borrowing their organs and then not returning them. That's very bad. Any librarian can tell you that. I didn't realize, and I hadn't paid as close attention as Miss Carolyn did about the fact that the guy got to shoot down the UFO had a history in this episode. Let's see, what can I say about this thing as far as the storyline goes? Well, okay, the plot, the overall arcing plot, having the Stryker studio there and then the base underneath is a bit ridiculous. They don't show it in this episode, but Stryker's office actually goes underground. Yeah, it goes underground into the other facility. So there's times where you can enter as an actor, and then there are times you can enter as an alien. Or in this case, an alien actor on the above part, and then an alien on the lower part. Or maybe, let me reset. Perhaps an alien actor on the upper level, and then an actor playing an alien on the lower level. This could get very confusing. Mirrors, anyone? But in any case, it was interesting. I'll give some details on. I got to put down the wet bar. I'm putting that down for later on. Plot-wise, I think it was a good setup for what they were trying to do. They kind of gave us an idea of where we were going with this, and I think that works pretty well. There's a quote in here that Stryker makes. He says, "The Earth is faced with a powerful threat from an extraterrestrial source. We've moved into an age where science fiction has become fact, and we need to defend ourselves." That pretty much sizes up what the series is going to be, and it does deliver in some interesting, wacky ways. But I enjoyed it a lot, although there were plenty of funny moments through the series. And my Canadian friend Frank, he's got it figured out. Okay, back to you, KE5ICX.
Okay, W5EBB, David, go ahead.
Well, right from the get-go, I kind of got this general impression that it was trying to be of a caliber of a James Bond movie. You know, you've got the chase scene and the helicopter attacking and missing every time they drop a bomb. It never hits the street even, but it's right on each left and right side perfectly. But it kind of falls flat in reaching the level of a James Bond movie. But it kind of had that initial feel, and then it kind of turns into more of a Space 1999, or I guess Space 1980 kind of a mode. And I guess Jerry Anderson was kind of getting his feet wet with this series before he went into Space 1999, which was a bit better, yeah. And what's up with the 1980, that kind of subliminal flashing of 1980? I don't know, which is the year 2733 in the, ancient Roman calendar, which has an interesting sequence to it. But anyway, this was entertaining. And, it almost seems like, let me reset. they were trying to go a little over the top, you know, with the costumes and the hair and the curvature, you know, nothing left to the imagination. And, you know, it had to be kind of a, you know, not too serious about itself, I would say. But, you know, overall I thought it was pretty entertaining. 1980, W5 EBB.
Okay, KF5 PDS. Billy, go ahead.
Yeah, this was my first time to see it and to know anything about it. I'm the same way. I did not know about this series until Tom mentioned it. But I watched Space 1999 as a kid in the 70s and really liked that. Somewhere around here, I've even got a Moonbase Alpha model in a box I've not put together. So I really was a fan of the show, liked watching Space 1999. From the get-go on this, it immediately struck me before I even knew Jerry Anderson was involved. As soon as I started seeing the show, I immediately was like, this is like live-action Thunderbirds. You know, it really struck me that way, which I love Thunderbirds. And so I just kept marveling at the look of the film. It really just struck me that way. It was like Super Marionation, but with real people. You know, it was awesome. And I love the retrofuturism. That's exactly how I would describe it. And it's funny because in the 80s we did get purple hair. But I loved, you can't get any more futuristic than wacky colored hair and shiny silver outfits and white furniture. And even there was a scene in there with an inflatable bed that was a clear inflatable bed, so you had clear inflatable furniture, and that just screams future, you know. So lots of fun, campy things about the show. I totally agree. It was totally over the top, but I'm of the opinion that if you're going to go over the top, go way over, you know, play it to conviction and really sell it, because otherwise, if you're afraid to go too over the top, then it's not going to come across with any kind of conviction. So I really thought they owned it well, and everything, from wardrobe to music. And, I love the interesting opening, too, as well, where they kept flashing the 1980 and the gull wing car. I thought that was really interesting because, you know, we got our Back to the Future kind of element there. So I really enjoyed that. I thought the plot was good. Yeah, it was a done trope, but and later it was funny because I think around 1980 we had V, which was another alien invasion show where they were harvesting humans. So I'm sure that harkens back to this series. So this was a pioneering series with a star-studded cast. So. And a varied ensemble cast from what it looks like. And I'd be interested to know more about it. Let me reset. One thing that struck me is, you know, it's an hour show, and it is a full hour. I was talking with Tom earlier today and talking about growing up with syndicated TV shows and how commercials crept more and more into shows where an hour-long show was really about 42 minutes. And that was not the case with UFO. They took their time and they developed their story. And to me, at times it felt slow because they had this pacing that wasn't hurried, and they took their time to develop and flesh out. They didn't give away every single thing, which I really like, because you got to think you're going to spin this over a series. Then you've got to take your time and not give away too much up front. And I thought they did a really good job with that. I enjoyed the story, and once I got used to the pace, then it was fine. And I liked that it was a full hour to develop the story and everything, and it left you wanting more at the end, which is great because you want to be able to propel into the next episode. So I really like it, and look forward to talking about more details in the next round. This is KF5 PDS, back to Matt.
Okay, KG5, Zulu, Charlie, Tango, Dave, go ahead.
Yes, KG5 DT here. Interesting that this was a choice for the week. As a kid growing up in the 70s and a sci-fi nerd, I spent a whole bunch of time watching these episodes, Star Trek, the original series, and of course the follow-on Space 1999, which was mentioned earlier, was actually a series that was developed from the UFO series by the same team. But yeah, it was interesting to see all the classic tropes you have, the costumes, the hair, all the quote-unquote futuristic type styling of the time. But at the same time, it's interesting too to see things like people who are smoking and all the stuff that you don't see in modern films anymore. But anyway, it was fun to watch. I have to admit, I've seen them all many times, so it was almost a repeat of my life. But very enjoyable. You have to kind of take it as it is. It's a little bit campy, but it's definitely fun and good time to watch it one more time. So back to net control, KG5 is with you.
This is WB50ZL. I had never seen this, nor had I ever heard of it, and I don't know why. In 1970, I pretty much devoured all the science fiction I could get my hands on. I do not know why. Perhaps it was not shown in our area. At that time, I think we had one network and one... I'm not sure. Well, I think we had PBS by that time and something else, but our choices were limited. That's the only thing I can figure. Or I definitely watched it. Yeah, it's just campy. It's fun. I think in terms of the plot was fine. It didn't make a lot of mistakes. It didn't leave you wondering what the heck happened, like so many shows do. It was coherent, and that was good. And I just love the look and feel of it. It's different, but it's campy and it's just fun. Okay, do we have any more check-ins? Okay, we're going to start back up at the top and talk about characters. KG5, Zulu, November, Juliet. Frank, go ahead.
This is KG5ZNJ. Just to say a tiny little more about not seeing it, it's true. I never saw this show. I had never heard of it. And, I remember Star Trek. I definitely remember Doctor Who. That was actually my favorite. And I saw Thunderbirds, and I even saw Supercar. And I don't know if anybody remembers Supercar, but I remember it. And I saw Space 1999, and I never saw UFO, and I think that's what it was. I don't think it was played in my market, and I really do regret it, man, because I saw an awful lot of Brady Bunch, and I would have rather seen UFO. Characters, well, basically over-the-top go-go girls and over-the-top macho men. What can you say? The women were there for the eye candy, I guess, and there was one thing I liked, though. I really liked this, is when that girl, Gail, makes that other guy go get her coffee. I thought that was hilarious. That was really good. A lot of bad lines, but they were awesome bad lines, awesome bad overacting. What can I say about Richard Dawson? I mean, he was awesome as Alec, the original man's man right there, just way over the top. And, I could see now why he went from this show to being the kissing bandit on Family Feud. So, yeah, Richard Dawson. Most people don't know he's British, but he is. And when he was on Family Feud, he's putting on his American accent. There was tons of great quotes. Oh, my God, in this. What is this one? These clouds give about as much cover as a G-string on a belly dancer. Wow. The other one, good morning, Gail. I think I have some action for you. And then later he says we could all do with a little bit of action. And Richard Dawson saying, I think your equipment is fabulous, baby. So, yeah, just, I don't know, what can you say? Over-the-top stuff, man. Back to you, Nick Joel.
Okay, KC5OZT, Carolyn. Let's talk about the characters or anything else you want to talk about. Ed Stryker. Stryker, he is he plays the Supreme Commander very well, and yet he has a human touch that shows up every now and then. But I think it was, the combination of eyes and hair color, made him seem, not say science fiction-y, but, and of course I'm remembering, the other episode. He is a very good commander and has control of everything. And then, the helpers, the girls, everything were, let's say sexy. But you have to admit they were smart and running the computers, running a lot of the, up on the moon base, a lot of the detection equipment. And the equipment, of course, remember, this was the 70s. The car didn't come out till the 80s, and that was the first one I had, but, and then let me reset. Like I said, the one that got shot down, finally get to shoot down the UFO, a poignant moment, to find that out about your sister. And one thing that always seemed odd was the UFOs themselves. They seemed sort of I don't know, campy or something, just a little spitting disc. It was nothing like the reports that were coming in, of the real UFO reports. But maybe that was just easier to film. But, these characters, they were really trying to work to protect Earth, and really acted like it, I think that's all I can say, really, KC5OZT. Great, KF5TSK, Burl, go ahead.
This is KF5TSK. Well, I thought the sets were really good. The only thing that really didn't look good to me was the aircraft. Some of the models just seemed too ridiculous to be able to fly. But I liked the SST. It wasn't really what I was expecting. That was a strange design of what they had. But I thought the acting was good, probably consistent with what I would expect in a science fiction film. That's all I can think of right now. KF5TSK, back to net.
Okay, N5HYP, Tom.
Hey, good evening again. This is N5HYP. I can't add too much. It's kind of funny in considering that it was 1970, that you know they held to some stereotypes of men and women quite strongly here, and men and women's roles and such like that. That was kind of you know, a little bit of a surprise for me. Although yes, it took really a long time for that to you know, get upended in television and motion pictures. I thought some of the acting was rather poor, but yet there were elements of strength in the story that helped it. But I'm not sure if now I was exposed to it that I would watch the entire series. But you know, I guess if I had seen it as a young person, as a kid, I would have probably been more attracted to it at this point right now. That's all I have at this point. It's N5HYP. We'll talk about the special effects a bit when we get to that round. It's N5HYP.
K5ICX, Tom.
Alright, those of you who don't watch the video, you did get to see me fly out of my chair that broke. This is the same chair I've had here in the shack for over 10 years. It finally, something bad happened. I pushed it over in the corner, and I brought the backup chair. Yes, it takes care of your back, by the way. And it's much more comfortable. I don't know why I never brought it in here in the first place. But it's here. Let's see. Characterizations. You know, here's the thing. I don't mind Stryker. He's this poor guy, and he mentions that he's always, you know, constantly having to solve problems, and these doggone aliens are always around, and geez, what are we going to do next? And then he's got to work with everybody else and make sure everything happens. And he's got to launch all these crazy, you know, spacecraft, submarines, and everything else. It's all done. And everybody's got purple hair and mesh shirts, and you know, I mean, he's got to figure out the coordinated uniforms of the day and the hairstyles. Think of it. He not only has to deal with, you know, the aliens, the shadows, and taking care of this widespread organization, but he also has to work with actors and run a studio. I mean, this guy better make a lot of money. Let me reset. Earth, you get stuck with something like that. Couldn't they like open up a bakery shop and then dig that big huge tunnel underneath? Why a studio? A studio? So if the aliens show up, you say, well, we're just filming something for Star Trek 23? I mean, well, it is the future. It's 1980. So that could be. So I'm not sure exactly that whole premise. Maybe that goes back to the plot or the premise of the series. But it just kind of is strange that way. Ed Bishop does a good job as Stryker. I think that he's got some potential in the character that probably wasn't there originally. But he is frustrated by the whole thing, although he acts kind of weird that way. By the way, he's the same guy who was the moon shuttle conductor, if I can use Dr. McCoy, in 2001. He's the guy on the Pan Am lander going from the space station to the moon. He talks with, who is it? I can't remember his doggone name, the scientist. You'll all tell me, I'm sure. It's just suddenly I can't remember. Dr. Floyd. Thank you, KG5ZCT. Yes, Dr. Haywood Floyd. At any rate, I just thought I'd mention that. Anything else would be rambling. I can hardly wait until we get to the special effects and the sets and all that good stuff. Back to you, KE5ICX.
All righty, W5EBB. Go ahead, David.
Well, one aspect of the plot, when they recover the alien body and it still has the space helmet on, the first thing they do when they see it has liquid in it, they drain it, and then later find out, oh, maybe he was breathing that. Maybe he wouldn't have become a desiccated piece of meat and still be alive. Maybe if we had left it in there. But, maybe they should have tested it to make sure it wasn't just seawater. Now, continuing with the James Bond analogy that I personally think it has some relevance or association, Shadow kind of reminds me of Spectre, but I got kind of confused because Shadow sounds like a bad organization, like Spectre was a bad organization, but Shadow is the Supreme Headquarters for Alien Defense, Supreme Headquarters Alien Defense Organization. They kind of forced that acronym. And I'll admit, I kind of loosely watched this episode, but I couldn't quite tell in a given scene, okay, are we on the moon, or are we a few stories underground on the Earth at Shadow headquarters? I couldn't quite figure it out, just because the brightly colored buttons and attire, maybe that's the tell. I don't know. But the other tie-in, the Colonel Straker, I keep wanting to say Stryker from Airplane, but Straker, Commander-in-Chief of Shadow, had a similar attire as Dr. No from James Bond, a light-colored monochrome suit with circulation, stopping thin-collared neck. Kind of looked like Dr. No a bit. Now, the Shadow was established to defend Earth and humanity against the mysterious aliens and learn more about them, while at the same time keeping the threat of an alien invasion hidden from the public. And I looked through some of the plot outlines for the 25 episodes, but nowhere does the commercial aspect come in here. Okay, the aliens want our organs, and we would probably kind of like to have some of their technology, so maybe we could arrange some sort of trade. I don't know. W5EBB.
KF5PES, Philly.
Yeah, one thing I thought interesting was they very briefly introduced Colonel Virginia Lake, who is a scientist, and I thought it was interesting that she holds the rank of colonel, so she's pretty high-ranking official. And from what I was reading about the character, she figures in pretty prominently towards the end of the series, where she becomes the head of Shadow, which I think is kind of cool. But the actress that plays her, Wanda Ventham, I looked her up, and that is actually the mother of noted actor Benedict Cumberbatch, who we know from Star Trek Into Darkness. He played Khan, and he also plays the title role on the BBC series Sherlock, which is interesting because the parents of Sherlock on the show are his real parents, Wanda Ventham and Timothy Carlton. They play Sherlock's parents, and that's his real parents. So I was interested to see, because I enjoy his acting, and it's so interesting to see her in a young, fresh, young role, to see her as an actress, and that way you can kind of see where his acting style and natural abilities come from by watching her. So I thought that was really interesting. And so I enjoyed, that they had a character, a female character in a very strong leadership position. And I guess that's a sign of the tide turning a little bit, because it's still very much, I found it odd. At first I thought this was like right smack in the 60s until I saw it was made in 1970. So I guess it was kind of on the cusp of the sexual revolution before that major, I guess, socially conscious movement, kind of the tide turned later in the 70s. So I thought her character was interesting, although it was briefly introduced. Again, that's, another aspect of if you want to watch a little bit more, but I don't know if I can binge watch it because, boy, there's a lot going on in this show as far as not just wardrobe, which helps tip you off of the location where you are. It's like, mesh shirts means you're on a submarine, and silver shiny with purple hair means you're on the moon base, and then the kind of the regular clothing, you're back home at the Shadow headquarters. Which they did show him go underground. He, flicked the thing and you saw it descend just briefly at the very beginning of the show, so you did get the impression they were underground. So, the wardrobe was a big tip-off. But, yeah, the characterizations are still very sexist, but interesting. I liked Straker as well. I kept wanting to call him Striker, too. But, yeah, it's interesting to see. So you get kind of a taste of all the characters. You don't know too much about any one of them, and then I'm sure they go into more of the characterizations as you go through the show. So on the whole, I like the characterizations. So with that, I'll return it to Net Control. This is KF5PDS. Back to Net.
AG5 Zulu Charlie Tango. Dave, go ahead.
Yes, KG5ZT here. Trying to think of anything else to add. The characters were interesting, obviously, in the first episode. I think and I'm trying to remember, it's been a while since I've seen all the episodes, but as I recall, they kind of developed as time goes on. In fact, there were some pretty deep plots that happened later on in the series that take place. So if you have an interest in watching the whole series, you probably get a little more character development as time goes on. One interesting thing, too, I don't know if someone mentioned or not, so one of the ladies on the moon base, the lieutenant, she actually is the moon base commander, so it's kind of interesting to see a female, in that role, that time. Again, that things are very sexist in the way they present them, but it is interesting, too, and refreshing to see that even back then they had a female in charge of the entire base, so that was kind of cool. But other than that, yeah, it was just interesting stuff. Typical, TV, obviously the pilot things got to develop over time, but fun to watch nonetheless. Back to Net Control, KT5DT.
Okay. Anything to add? I think we have a lot of good comments. So let's, this is WB50ZL. Are there any more check-ins? Let's look at special effects. KG5ZNJ. Frank, go ahead.
This is KG5ZNJ. The effects, for me anyway, were really fun and interesting, and gave me a tremendous amount of nostalgia. But that's because I had several of the toy versions of this series. I never saw the series. Especially, the vehicles and the spaceships and all that stuff. And I also remember very vividly looking at other toys from this series that were in the toy catalogs, back in the day when we had catalogs, both from Sears, I think, in Canada, and the Hudson Bay Company. They had them in their catalogs, and I remember just wanting all those toys. So it's just really cool to have totally forgotten about this and then just see the live-action version of it. They're using this Super Marionation stuff that they developed, and I have to say they did a pretty darn good job for probably a very small budget and very impressive for the times. So you got to look at it as it's special effects for the time. So it was actually really well done if you look at it that way. So I got a lot of enjoyment watching it, and I really want to see the rest of it because, like I said, I only saw about half of it. I guess that's all I got to say about it. Back to you, Net Control. This is KG5ZNJ.
Okay, Carolyn, KC50ZT.
they always seem actually sort of realistic. I mean, okay, where that UFO was trying to hit the car, and well, I have to admit the zigzagging was a little odd, but I mean, it seemed realistic. In the same way later when they would have attacks and you have to admit that the skydiver, that approach was sort of had never been done before. I mean, in real life, that I know of, a submarine with a rocket plane that could shoot out of it. No wonder it hasn't been developed to something like that. Let me reset. And of course I said something about the computers being a little old-fashioned, but that was, that time, that was normal, but and the interceptors on the moon, I wonder if they reminded anybody else of the Space 1999. It looked like they were the forerunners of those ships, but and then that thing, I think they did show not Stryker's office, but the second-in-command's office going down to the lower level, somewhere in there. I don't remember exactly where, but it had some pretty good special effects as far as I was concerned. And then some maybe could have been improved, but anyway, I liked it though. H5OZT.
KF5 TSK, Burl.
That's KF5 TSK. Well, one of the things I thought was really unusual is in Stryker's office, he had this machine that dispensed alcoholic beverages, and it was almost like it was 4 or 5 feet across, and I was like, well, gee, what can, who has that in their office, especially a military person? They might have a bottle on their desk, but, they have a whole machine that makes drinks, and, one person in the office. Other thing I looked at was on the submarine, the men had mesh shirts, but the women, had a complete blouse. And also they, seemed to show a lot of mini skirts, and it was like, that kind of goes back to the 60s type movies. That's all for now. KF5 TSK back to net.
Okay, N5HYP, Tom, go ahead.
This is N5HYP, Net. One thing, I commented about right off the bat was the length of the open. Now, not having seen any other episodes, I don't know if they abbreviated or not, but up in the 60s and 70s, show opens, were usually fairly long. This was no exception. So that, felt like it took, half the show to get past the open, and you kind of had these glimpses of what you were going to see in the course of the show. And I guess that was the point. now when you look at a new show, say like Manifest on NBC, the real honest-to-gosh title graphics are only 5 or 7 seconds long. They just kind of lead you into the plot of the show and then tell you what the show's name is after that. Obviously, I'm sure that Anderson and Company didn't have the biggest budgets to work with, and this is before Star Wars, so the bar had not been raised very much higher than models like Anderson had been using for Thunderbirds and other shows like that. So when I first saw the quick shots of the submarine launching the missile and stuff like that, I'd seen this before because it kind of had. The clothing was kind of a character. He even had the one scene. I don't know why it had to be there, except to show that some of the guys were kind of macho, like the lady taking the break, and then you see her changing clothes. It was like, okay, was that really necessary? I don't know that it was, but the clothing and the hairstyles and everything were supposed to try to look futuristic. The thing about the computer, Burl mentioned that earlier on. They had all these tape drive computer systems, but yet the satellite, which was doing the detection, was this unmanned supercomputer type of futuristic glowy place that was keeping watch on everything. That was kind of interesting, but not really explained. It didn't seem to fit with the rest of the technologies that they were using. So that's what was kind of odd there in relation to special effects, is that there was a few aspects that didn't quite fit with the rest of the technology that was being used. Back to net, this is N5HYP. Interested to see what we got in store next week, but we'll find out later.
KE5ICX, Tom, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Ms. Brenda. And to remind everyone, if you're interested, I always send out an email containing whatever next week's movie is. So if you fall out early, like, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, depending on when this net ends, you can always check your inbox the old-fashioned way. Just send an email to KE5ICX, Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, at yahoo.com, or go to the website Afterglow Movie, 2 words, Afterglow and Movie, and you get the information there as well. In any case, let's see. And links to those movies if they're available online for free. A couple of things. I mentioned several things I thought were really interesting, and I put those comments in my little, in the margin here. I do take notes when I'm doing this because I always find it fascinating when people have a lot better information than I ever thought of. The opening is very long, but that's to tell a story. What's going on? Where are we at? What world are we doing? We usually get that as a voiceover. Star Trek did it. Space 99 did it later on, which was done by the same people. In this case, they're not doing that. Space 1999 did not do that. The Prisoner did that. So they repeated something that they did before, which is, we're going to show you everything that's going on. It's the future 1980. If you didn't get it the first 4 times, we're going to tell you 5 times. Let me reset. explain the premise of the show, and that happens. What is it? Battlestar Galactica, the original series, did that. So did the next series, although they did it with visuals and comments. So, yeah, that's not that unusual, and in a space show or a science fiction show, having that narration and that opening longer than normal, probably it was the norm. Today they don't do it so much, and I think that you may lose an audience because of it. Let's see. One of the things that was interesting is, of course, how do you figure out where they're at? Which base are they on? What's happening? Well, you knew that the gals in the mini skirts were on Earth. The gals with the crazy purple hair, magenta would be my guess, were on the moon. And if everybody was wearing a mesh top and you were wondering whether they had anything underneath those mesh tops, some did, some did not, they were on a submarine. That's how you knew. That's how you knew. Now, as far as special effects, Gary and Sylvia Anderson went on, or Gary Anderson did. I think Sylvia and he had broken up. Space Precinct came out in the 1980s, about 1985, 6, or 7. They continued with that low-tech spacecraft stuff, flying by string type of thing. So they never divorced themselves from that because that's what they knew. So I thought that was very interesting because at that point, special effects were being done by computer, primitive as they may be. And Brawl just ruined it for me. He noticed immediately the alcoholic beverage table that's sitting there in Stryker's pad there, his office, and it has push buttons. You just press one button, out comes the booze. Yay! Whiskey and water, I love it. Or you can press another button and start nuclear, World War III or IV or whatever we are in 1980, because it is the future. Just press a button. Hey, who makes bad decisions after having 4 or 5 button-pushing drinks? I don't make bad decisions. I do a great job, but then I don't have the nuclear codes or the button to push them. So in those cases, overall, I thought though the series itself was pretty well orchestrated. The computers and all that stuff, I don't know. I'll leave that for others to discuss. It was a bit primitive, even by 1970 standards. If you want to take a standard, take Star Trek and compare. It didn't have computers, but at the same time, I think this one was somewhat trivial, in my own opinion. I'll let others speak. This is KE5ICX, back to net control, and I have a nice chair now.
Okay, W5EBB, go ahead, Dave.
Well, the spinning tapes, certainly were consistent with the James Bond Nemesis computer technology of the day, and watching things spinning around with the 60-degree little spool notches there, kind of was pretty standard for the day. And yeah, it's true. The fishnet, kind of is a memory aid. That those are the Submariners, and it does look like Aquaman's attire as well. But the fishnet did indicate that obviously the series predated NEAT technology in EET. The special effects were adequate, kind of similar to Thunderbirds and many of the Japanese space serials of the same era. And there are actually some pretty good, I think it was on Comet TV, I've seen a few of those Japanese space serials, and some of them are actually pretty good, 1980. The SST and the Interceptor designs didn't look like they would pass the standard wind tunnel test. They were a bit bulky, not particularly aerodynamic or streamlined. But then again, the F4, a.k.a. Flying Brick, doesn't look too aerodynamic either, but it flies with enough thrust. So I'll certainly give them a pass on the special effects. W5EBB.
Okay. KF5PDS, Billy.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting the miniature sets, the model making. There's not any CGI yet, so they had to rely on physical means of special effects. So I'd not seen the whole series, but if it's any indication, they had the moon base, so they had large scale, modeling with incredible detail, and also the underwater base, and so I'd be interested to watch it just to see how they develop with the model making of all the different locations. And I was reading on Wikipedia about how they filmed the underwater launch of Sky 1, which was really interesting because it was not underwater. They just had it says a thin glass-walled water tank containing small fish and equipped with a small air bubble generator. You placed that in front of the camera, and then the set behind the tank was filled with smoke, and set elements were agitated with fans to simulate water movement, which did, create, looked like it was underwater when they launched it. And it said it creates a surprisingly convincing underwater scene without any of the high cost or technical problems associated with real underwater filming. So they came up with convincing workarounds to make it look realistic. So I thought that was really interesting. Also, I thought it was interesting when Straker came into his office before he lowered it to go down to Shadow Headquarters. He had to use some type of voice recognition before he was allowed to do that. So he had to recite part of a soliloquy to, Romeo and Juliet to get that to activate. So I thought that was interesting. I can't really think of anything else except for I'd like to see more of the models that they used in the series, because those have really remarkable detail. And sadly, I'm sure a lot of that probably doesn't exist anymore because they didn't know to save stuff. But I imagine whatever is left is highly collectible. So I would be interested to see more of the show from that aspect. At this point, I'm really tired. I can't think of anything else. So I'm going to return it to you, and I look forward to hearing what we're going to talk about next week. This is KF5PDS back to net.
KG5ZCT. Dave, go ahead.
Yes, KG5ZT. Trying to think of anything else to add. Special effects-wise, it was a classic, I guess, 70s sci-fi, although they actually did some cool things. As was alluded to, they found some interesting ways to make effects look more realistic than you think they would have been able to in that time frame. But one interesting thing that reminded me as a child, I had a good number of the little dinky modules. The company that made them was called Dinky, but yeah, I had the interceptors and the tanks and all the various ones. They were pretty neat. Unfortunately, I don't have them anymore. I'm sure they'd have some value on an eBay type sale, but nonetheless, fun to watch. Special effects wise, about what you anticipate. And I don't know if they got much better as a series one. I think the whole thing was filmed in a matter of just really a few months, not less than a year. So they probably did some standard stock footage and took it from there. But nothing else to add. Again, good conversation this evening about it. I enjoyed it. KG5ZT back in net control. Thank you.
I like the special effects okay. It was cheesy, but for the day, considering they had a TV budget and not a movie budget, I think they did okay with what they had. It's just cheesy, but it's kind of fun. Okay, this is WB5OZL. Do we have any more check-ins? Okay, well, it's coming up on midnight pretty soon here, so We're just going to throw this out here. If you have any more comments, please come back with your call sign, and we will let you say what you want to say. Go ahead.
E5ICX.
EBB.
We have KE5ICX and W5EBB. We'll take KE5ICX first. Go ahead, Tom.
Okay, I'll make this short. The thing about this series is that we're baking a second season before they were canceled, and it involved, let's see, that moon base that we saw being blasted out of Earth orbit and into interstellar space, and somehow or another the characters would live on to do something incredible, and all those purple-haired gals would figure it all out. Does that sound like something you all know? Yep. Main mission and all of that, the special effects designed for the set, I should say, not special effects, but the set was designed around the idea of main mission, which ended up in space 1999. Just a factoid. They went ahead and made a separate series. Why not, I guess? KE5ICX.
WB5EBB. Go ahead.
Well, I'm at 120-degree computer tape, notch separation, not 60 degrees. My high school geometry teacher would be appalled. The sum of interior angles of a circle is what? 360 degrees. But that's not what I wanted to really say. I was looking at some of the synopses of the 25 episodes, and there are 6 that sound interesting, and there are 2 in particular that you see in future movies or in future endeavors. Here are 2 of them. Foster is stranded on the moon where he befriends a similarly stranded alien. Well, that's Alien Mine. Another one, Stryker campaigns to have space junk removed from Earth's orbit. Well, that's currently a top space priority from the highest level. Now, I'm not checking out these 4 episodes if they're available online somewhere. An alien crystal causes Lieutenant Conroy, Straker, and other shadow operators to hallucinate. Foster and his lunar module co-pilot are brainwashed by aliens to kill Straker. A man with ESP knowledge of shadow is co-opted by the aliens, and this one, the favorite, a must-see. A shadow interceptor pilot is placed under a hypnotic spell by an alien-influenced cat. And I am now regarding my own cat with a somewhat suspicious eye. But really, I enjoyed this. This was a good show. This was fun. W5EBB.
Oh, yeah, we know about cats. I can tell you all about that. Okay, Tom, how about next week? Do we have a selection, KE5ICX?
Yes, we do. This is KE5ICX. We go back to motion pictures. I found a legit link to, are you ready? Write this down, The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai from 1984. That's for next week. I will post it everywhere. And in case you want to know, if you want to get ahead and get extra credit, the following movie on December 8th will be The Day the Earth Caught Fire from 1946. Mike, KG5P, offered that suggestion, so I've got it in the list. You can go to the Facebook page, Afterglow Movie, that's 2 words, Afterglow and Movie, and there is a list of everything, possible movies. I added a bunch of new ones into the list, so if you got something in there you like, or if you want to add something, by all means do so. There are a ton of films online for free, legally, by the way, legally, that you can watch, usually on YouTube, but other places. At any rate, that's it. The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai from 1984, next week. This is KE5ICX.
Great. Well, we had 9 participants tonight, and this is WB5OZL. We're going to end the net yet. No thanks to the W5FC repeater for the use of their the Dallas Amateur Radio Club for the use of their repeater. It feels like midnight. Going to bed soon. Everybody have a good night, and we'll see you next week. WB5OZL.